For more on the legal roadblocks the Trump administration is facing, let's bring in former Deputy Assistant Attorney General John Yoo. John, thanks for joining us this afternoon. So there is now the administration, the question as to whether or not they can fire a number of government employees. We've heard that they have legal protections, you just can't do it. But the administration seems to be doing it. So what's going on there?
Rich, great to be with you. The way to understand what's happening is that President Trump is trying to restore the original powers of the presidency. And one of the most important powers is protecting the national security and foreign affairs. Presidents from Thomas Jefferson all the way through Richard Nixon, and this is when the decline of the presidency started, have always been able to not spend money if it harms our foreign policy and national security. So President Trump, I think, is within his rights to say, Congress can't force me to give money abroad if it hurts the national security of the United States. We're not going to suppose Congress said, give money to Tehran, give money to China, give money to Russia. I think President Trump, building on the historical precedents of his predecessors, will be able to say, no, I'm not going to hurt the national security of the United States. So I think he can shut down USAID. Plus, one other thing with USAID, it turns out that it looks like the employees of USAID defied direct presidential orders to stop shoving money out the door while there was a pause to take a look and see what they were up to. I think the president is trying to restore control of the executive branch too, and he's allowed, I think, to dismiss employees who defy presidential orders.
What about the creation of these agencies? USAID, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the Department of Education. These are all entities that Congress created, signed into law by the then President of the United States. Wouldn't it then take another law to get rid of those agencies?
That's a great question, Rich. And I think that's where Congress's powers go. Congress can create the agencies. Congress can give them missions. It can give them employees, and it can give them money. But they can't force the president to do unconstitutional things. For example, this might be going on in the Department of Education. Congress can't say, give money for racial diversity programs. If the president thinks, like Abraham Lincoln did, that's unconstitutional. I don't think that Congress can force the president to manage agencies ineffectively and inefficiently. What if President Trump says, I can build a bridge for $500 million, and Congress says, no, waste money and spend $1 billion? I think the president has the ability, with all the examples you gave, to run the executive branch in an efficient, effective way and return the money to the taxpayers. Remember, this is all taxpayer dollars, and this is a fight between a Congress that wants to waste money and a president is trying to save money.
You know, the Constitution gives Congress the power of the purse strings. Do you think a court would then say, you know, hey, this is something that is the prerogative of the executive?
No, I don't think that the president has the power of the purse. You're quite right, Rich. Only Congress can make appropriations. If Congress gives a direct order, you must spend this money on, say, this university or building this bridge, and they force the president to do it, ultimately they can. Now, the thing is, here's where I get worried. The courts, I don't know if they should be getting involved in the middle of this, whether courts should be interfering with the president's effort to control everyone who works in the executive branch, who, under the Constitution and Supreme Court precedent, report to and work only for the president, and a Congress that's trying to, as you just described, Rich, try to create control over what the executive branch does, trying to interfere with the president's control over the agencies. If you want to impeach President Trump for that, Congress can. But the courts might be treading on dangerous grounds if they try to insert themselves into this fight. And these are fights that have been going on since George Washington all to the way to today.
What do you make about the executive order on birthright citizenship? That's already gone to the court system. Do you think that the president has the power to narrow what birthright citizenship is?
Again, this is another example of the interplay between the president, the Congress, and the courts. Right now, the law is, and I think the lower courts are all going to strike down President Trump's order because Supreme Court precedent, I think, clearly says the Constitution requires birthright citizenship. But President Trump is allowed to say, I have a different view of the Constitution, and I'm going to try to trigger a challenge to the Supreme Court and try to get the Supreme Court, try to persuade it to change its mind. Now, actually, if you looked at President Trump's press conference on this, he expressed doubt himself about whether he was going to win on this. I actually think of all the executive orders I've looked at, and I've tried to look at most of them, I think this is the one that he's most likely to lose on, even though he's very strong, I'd say, on 90% of the other ones.
Okay. John Yoo, the former U.S. Deputy Assistant Attorney General, thank you so much for joining us this morning or this afternoon. Much appreciated.
Thanks, Rich. Go Eagles.